Balatro is an amazing game. Understatement of the year, as I write this after it took home a trio of accolades at the 2024 Game Awards. It oozes style and appeal from every pixel, with a UI that is simple but incredibly appealing and sounds that are just so freaking satisfying. Like the card pack opening sounds in TCG Card Shop Simulator. Yeah, that's great. Super nice to listen to, tactile even. But you know what's also great? I can't get enough of it. You would honestly struggle to find something Balatro does not excel at, earning its place alongside the other Game of the Year nominees. Yet there is one element, or lack thereof, that sets it apart. Black Myth Wukong, Metaphor ReFantazio, Final Fantasy, even Astrobot to an extent, the other nominees here, and hell, even in the indie and mobile categories Balatro was also nominated for, all these games have a story of some kind, some larger narrative the gameplay is in service of. But not Balatro. There's no lore behind the jokers, no cosmic casino you escape by beating the boss blinds. It is just pure, unfettered poker deck building. And that is far from an issue, mind you, with it being part of the roguelike genre, one whose games tend to have story take a bit of a backseat to the gameplay loop. That's because the appeal of these kinds of games are things like the mechanics, variety of builds, the ability to lose a run and immediately want to queue up another because it is just that fun to play. That said, it's not like those elements necessitate no story whatsoever. Plenty of games have bits of narrative drip-fed throughout as you progress a run, building out the world and characters through persistent elements of otherwise procedurally generated levels. And even games like Hades prove that this genre can absolutely have a compelling, fully fleshed out story and characters while still being a damn fun roguelike to play. If anything, the deaths you take sting even less than your typical roguelike because it might progress the story in some way. But this isn't a video about Hades or roguelikes in general. This is a video about what Balatro accomplishes in the face of no narrative. The gameplay is constantly asking you to evaluate risky plays, deal with chance, or make your own luck to reach the ever-growing blind while altering your deck to best play into favorable combos through any number of modifiers, mainly in the form of jokers. And within this gameplay loop, this constant shuffling of cards, retooling runs, all to make your funny number go higher and higher, this is where there emerges a very intriguing meditation on the idea of more never being enough. Now, the concept of beating a score to move on obviously isn't new, it might as well be game design 101, but the real wrinkle comes when you get to the game's endless mode. Within roguelikes as a genre, there exists a subset of games that offer the chance to continue beyond what qualifies as a one run. Titles like Nuclear Throne from 2013 basically work on a loop where you redo earlier levels with tougher enemies, rinse and repeat as long as your character is still kicking. Others like Luck Be a Landlord just start to scale the requirements you need to meet at every subsequent stage of the endless mode. Balatro falls into this latter category, and Endless starts off pretty reasonable, just a touch higher than what you were required to beat the game, and then it jumps by a bit, and then a bit more, and then suddenly the lowest possible chip requirement in Ante 12 is 300 million. And it only gets more absurd from there, with plenty of antes having to resort to E notation because the number is just that stupidly big. But make no mistake, if you try to stack the deck in your favor, literally, you can absolutely put together just as stupid of runs to reach those heights, climbing ever higher and higher, triggering synergy after synergy, stacking chips and malt until a single hand lasts longer than it has any right to. But then what? True to its name, this mode is endless, and while you can make insane runs that contain numbers bigger than any of us can possibly comprehend, bigger than anything even quantifiable to make a shred of tangible sense, try as you might, you will inevitably crash out or crash the game and have to start back at zero, like all of it never happened. This is fine within a game, right? The fun is in the journey, in trying to outdo your previous best. It can be admirable even, if not at least fun to try and make it work for a different build you think could pop off. But what happens if we shift that framing just a bit? If there is a unifying idea between Balatro and late-stage capitalism, it's that the number always has to go up. No exceptions. If you can't make the number go up, you've failed. That might feel a bit reductive, especially since, yeah, as I said, a lot of games involve getting the highest score possible or maximizing a return on your effort. Spelunky, Slay the Spire, Noida, Enter the Gungeon, Binding of Isaac. Yeah, all of the games in this genre especially will be easier during a run the more resources you have, the bigger your number. But in Balatro, the entire point, the entire gameplay loop, is solely conquering that bigger and bigger number. It's boiled down to such a degree that the comparison feels effortless. The goal of any sufficiently sized company under late-stage capitalism is to constantly have their numbers go up, be it for shareholders, for the market, or for the sake of growth. And if during the quarterly report that isn't the case, or even if the company isn't meeting its own projections, then changes have to be made. You need to alter your run. You need to find another Joker, because even if you survive this round, this quarter, expectations are going to keep increasing. Say, for example, you're one of the largest streaming platforms in the world, more than 200 million paying subscribers, but that's not going to be enough. Luckily though, you cracked open a buffoon pack and found the ad-supported Joker, which can scale nicely with your existing base score, ensuring you can pass the next ante without much worry. And hey look, it's the final boss, so congrats, you've won. But there's endless mode. There's always another quarter after all, and the number is just gonna keep getting bigger. Even though you beat the game, made more money than anyone is ever gonna need, that's not gonna be enough, is it? The game, capitalism, demands you reinvest your resources to continue building that deck, rigging things as much in your favor as you can. There is no such thing as coasting, as just being satisfied with what currently is. That can be a good thing in some cases, but the question has to be asked, what is this in service of? In Balatro, sure, it's fun to see how broken a build you can make, how high you can push that number, but it's a game. There's no consequences beyond, I guess, lost productivity. Let's not get into that. In real life, though, you have increased income inequality, the gradual enshittification of the end product, racing to the bottom in order to wring every possible penny out of the consumer. For what? So number can keep going up for a fraction of the population? In both Balatro and Capitalism, it doesn't matter how long you keep this up, eventually either the ante will outscale your ability to generate a bigger number, or you will get to the point where you literally break the system and can no longer continue. You've already beaten the game, you're just going for a high score for the sake of it, maybe entertaining the delusion that you can somehow beat endless mode, win against the infinity of growing expectations, win against entropy itself. There will never be a moment where they look at that and stop wanting to add another zero. I think one of the reasons Balatro is addicting is because it so nakedly presents that challenge of constantly scaling upward and the inherent sense of accomplishment that comes with meeting that. And maybe that's why corporations pursue that as well, because it feels like an achievement in and of itself to always have that line be going up. Hell, YouTubers also can operate that way with our subscriber counts. But if you ask me, if you're only in it for that reason, to try and see how far you can take a run into Endless, you're missing a lot of the game and by proxy also life. Where Balatro and Capitalism diverge is that you don't need to take a run as far as possible for it to be a success. There's a reason why the defined endpoint is Ante 8. And there are plenty of fun builds you can use to get there, challenge modes that make you rethink strategies. If you are content with not chasing that ever-rising mountain on the horizon, then there are so many ways to make Balatro an even more entertaining game. Except Jokerless. That's pain incarnate. You could also be dumb and try to complete every deck on Gold Stake. That won't take you 200 hours. But in all seriousness, I think there is nobility in learning when enough is enough for you, and seeking meaning beyond just whatever number you think currently means the most for your happiness. Thanks for watching.